Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're going to continue to cover the leaked script for the original version of Star Wars Episode 9, the Collin Trevorrow version of Episode 9 called Duel of the Fates. As I mentioned in prior videos, a few weeks ago we got some leaked details of the movie, then we got some concept art and a couple of batches, and now we have an entire script. I'm not going to go over the entire movie. I started covering it last video, so you can check that out for more context. But today we will be focusing specifically on what would have been Duel of the Fates, and really the Star Wars series, I guess, final battle. The Battle of Coruscant, appropriately. So there would have been a larger time gap between Duel of the Fates and Episode 9. Some people have calculated about 10 years based on some clues we get regarding R2's memory. But in this version of Episode 9, the First Order is much more entrenched in the galaxy, as we can see, for example, with Coruscant. And here's how the planet would have appeared for one of the first times. A dense cloud layer pierced with skyscrapers. We follow a security craft down through the fog to reveal the city, unrecognizable from its halcyon days. New structures built atop the deco architecture of the Old Republic, growing older as we descend to the decrepit streets below, sedimentary layers of progress. The security craft lands on a broad avenue rife with despair, immigrants from 1,000 systems all seeking a better future for their children. There's more, but we also learn that the First Order is directly over Coruscant with a massive capital, which we later discover is a Star Destroyer or some sort of capital ship, and we have a scene with Chancellor Hux at this point executing a Resistance agent. Anyway, as the movie progresses, the Resistance learns that within the remains of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, there is essentially a beacon which can bypass any First Order blockades or jamming. So a mission is put together which sees Rose and Finn activate this beacon basically as a way to rally support across the galaxy for a final confrontation against the First Order on the galaxy's capital planet. There would have been a really cool scene where the message being transmitted is one of Leia. She says, "This is General Leia Organa of the Resistance. The time has come to forge a path to freedom. The forces of oppression have ruled the galaxy for too long. We must join together and fight. Send your fastest ships, all your warriors. Our voices will not be silenced. We can no longer live in the shadow of the First Order. We must step into the light." We would have seen that message delivered to planets we know, including Mon Calamari and Bothawui, actually seeing the Bothans for the first time in live action. Interestingly, it's described almost as a mirror of the Starkiller destruction in Episode 7, basically this beam of light being transmitted from a planet and moving through hyperspace through systems across the galaxy. Although the message isn't fully sent off and Finn and Rose are attacked, it does ultimately lead to a final battle over Coruscant. Interestingly, at this point, the flagship for the Resistance is actually the Eclipse Super Star Destroyer. The Eclipse is, as it was in Legends, a massive dreadnought with a super laser, so we would have actually got to see this in action. Before that, however, Leia goes to Lando and asks for help making a fleet, while Finn travels to the underbelly of Coruscant and begins to initiate the first stages of a massive revolution. Although the First Order does have the planet locked down, there are still millions of people with weapons who, if motivated, could rise up together. Finn stands tall, from traitor to deserter to revolutionary leader. His journey has led to this. The battle starts off with the new Resistance fighters stealing a First Order walker. It's called an AT-MT, and it does seem to be different than the walker in The Last Jedi. And he basically goes through Coruscant on this massive walker, getting even more people to revolt against the First Order. He also at this point has stormtroopers helping him, as a whole regiment of First Order troopers have defected after encountering Finn. In space, Leia, Poe, and the Resistance fleet are creating a plan to strike at Coruscant and to destroy the transmitter which is blocking galaxy-wide communication, basically with the goal of ushering up uprisings like on Coruscant but across the galaxy. As the Eclipse comes out of hyperspace near Coruscant, it engages what the script calls Sentinel ships. These seem to be something pretty large because they do launch fighters, but it engages them and even destroys one with its super laser. Poe and Chewbacca actually get in X-Wings, and squadrons fly towards the planet's surface to help reinforce the ground battle. The First Order this time is using what they call TIE Hunters. I'm not sure whether these would be the same thing in Legends, but on the way to the planet's surface, we get a cool scene where Chewbacca manages to destroy a bunch of them while piloting an X-Wing, which is pretty cool. On the ground, the troops are moving towards the capital, but are forced to fight riot-suppressing Mandalorian brute troopers, which are basically mercenaries being used by the First Order. This actually reminds me a lot of Fate of the Jedi, where the Galactic Alliance used Mandalorians to help keep the Jedi in line. Resistance ships, including X-Wings and B-Wings from the fleet, come down to the planet's surface and help clear out any enemies between the Resistance and the capital, while Resistance transports also unload friendly armor, including AT-ATs and AT-STs, painted with Resistance colors and symbols. However, the First Order fleet has also now been summoned to destroy the Eclipse, which is seen as a symbol of the Resistance by now. The first Star Destroyer, which it calls a Finalizer Star Destroyer, is destroyed almost immediately. Now, it's called a Finalizer Star Destroyer, which is a bit odd because the Finalizer was the name of a Resurgent, while Finalizer here is being used as a class name, so I think this is a new type of Star Destroyer because the script talks about a bunch of new First Order weapons, and we get other ships specifically called Resurgents later on. On that note, when the Finalizer is destroyed, a new fleet made up of 10 more Star Destroyers arrive with an armada of sizes and classes. The First Order here basically is using its speed to try to outflank the Eclipse, which would be interesting because we've never seen something like that in a space battle really. While on the ground, the First Order capital is now being attacked by X-Wings and B-Wings. However, it is secretly a spaceship, as I said, and is attempting to jump to hyperspace so it can maintain its signal blocking functions. Rose comes up with a plan to stop the hyperdrive, but needs codes within R2-D2. R2 unfortunately takes a hit and apparently dies, but BB-8 is able to deliver the codes. Nonetheless, all seems to be failing as more Star Destroyers come out of hyperspace and engage the Eclipse, and the units on the ground are being overrun, with Chewie even being shot a couple of times. Suddenly, as the battle between Rey and Kylo on Mortis reaches its boiling point, 1,000 ships appear from hyperspace, a massive fleet of smugglers and thieves, flying tricked-out junkyard-bound personal cruisers, the pirates Han Solo spent half his life running from. In the lead is Lando's personal ship, the Lady Luck. And this is very similar to what we get at the end of episode 9, but of course we have Lando actually flying the Lady Luck, which is, well, pretty badass. Many ships head to the planet's surface to help relieve the Resistance troops on the ground, but Lando's fleet also covers for the Eclipse and the other large Resistance battleships, which now lay waste to the enemy. Hux, now realizing that he's lost the battle, decides to kill himself with a lightsaber, and the battle is won on the ground and in space, with the capital destroyed and the First Order planting their flag on the galaxy's capital. The First Order Dreadnought is actually destroyed in a pretty interesting way. Essentially, Rose messes with the hyperdrive because she can't outright disable it, and it collides with a distant planet with, and I quote, "the impact being so massive and so galaxy-shaking, it's visible for light years." It stands alongside the new messages being sent off across the galaxy as a beacon of hope. And with that, the Battle of Coruscant is won, and the Resistance takes the day. So what do you think of this final battle? Better or worse than the one we actually got in episode 9? Personally, I'm a big fan, not only because the Eclipse is in it, which is really cool, but because we have a meaningful battle happening on both the ground and in space. And more than that, a battle which actually has a sense of direction, which has movement and tactics within. What's annoying to me about the Battle of Exegol is it's kind of just a mishmash of ships. We get too many Resistance ships for any of them to be meaningfully designed or rendered, and the battle is really just stuff happening very far in the background in space while we get individual battles on the Star Destroyer. I also think this uses Rose in a much better way. I think each character gets a better moment to shine, especially Chewbacca, and I think it's a more realistic way for the First Order to be defeated. Basically, they lose because their tyranny and their iron fist on the galaxy is broken, and I quite quite like that rather than just what we got in episode 9. Also, it would have been nice to actually see some true capital ship engagements in episode 9 because we get so little of that in the Star Wars series. Having the Eclipse fight off multiple Star Destroyers and having a First Order fleet made up of different ships would have been really cool. However, as I said, that's just my opinion. I'm really interested to hear what you guys think. That's all I have for today's video though. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, turn notifications on, leave a like, and maybe even check out my social media feeds down in the description. Until next time though guys, this has been EckhartsLadder. May the Force be with you.